করছি। আজকের টপিক হচ্ছে ভেক্টর। ভেক্টর হচ্ছে একটা ফিজিক্যাল কোয়ান্টিটি which has both magnitude and direction. দুটোই থাকবে, নট অনলি ম্যাগনিটিউড বাট ডিরেকশন ইজ অলসো দেয়ার। ভেক্টরটাকে রিপ্রেজেন্ট করতে গেলে একটা অ্যারো দিয়ে করতে, অ্যারো দিয়ে করতে হবে। সো দ্য অ্যারো হেড একটা থাকবে, তার একটা টেল থাকবে। সো ফ্রম টেল টু হেড ইজ দ্য ডিরেকশন, দ্যাট উইল গিভ দ্য ডিরেকশন অফ দ্য হেড। টেল থেকে হেড যে আর একটা নাম। So any physical quantity can be categorized into two different quantity. দুটো পার্ট রয়েছে, একটা হচ্ছে স্কেলার কোয়ান্টিটি, একটা হচ্ছে ভেক্টর কোয়ান্টিটি। স্কেলার তার ফিজিক্যাল কোয়ান্টিটি which are fully defined by magnitude. Only magnitude is essential. সেগুলো বলে স্কেলার কোয়ান্টিটি। Follow the simple algebra. মানে অ্যাড করা, সাবট্রাক্ট করা, those are easily possible. এক্সাম্পল, মাস হতে পারে, লেন্থ হতে পারে, স্পিড হতে পারে, these are the physical quantity which are scalar in nature. বা এনার্জি, টেম্পারেচার, এইগুলো হতে পারে। ইলেকট্রিক কারেন্ট, টাইম, এইগুলোকে আমরা ফিজিক্যাল কোয়ান্টিটির মধ্যে পড়ছি। those physical quantities have also some kind of direction sense, but time is always moving in the forward direction. ইলেকট্রিক কারেন্ট is moving in a particular direction, এইগুলো ডিরেকশন সেন্স রয়েছে। so electric current, time, these are having some kind of direction sense, but still I am saying these quantities are scalar quantity. কেন? because this can have only one particular direction, একটা ডিরেকশন। A physical quantity which has both magnitude and direction, those are the physical quantity called vector. Along with that, they should follow some kind of algebra which is known as the vector algebra. Scalar quantity গুলো যেটা ফলো করে that is a simple algebra, যেটা আমরা পড়ি ম্যাথমেটিক্সে। আর vector algebra is a separate algebra that is being followed by the vector quantity. Example, velocity, displacement, force, these are the vector quantities. So, which of the following quantities is a vector? So vector কারা হবে এর মধ্যে? mass is not a vector, charge is also not a vector, mean velocity is a vector, energy is not a vector. So both energy, charge, mass, all are basically scalar quantity. Only velocity is a vector quantity. Similarly, which has a direction? Physical quantity which has a direction. So direction means may be a vector, must not be a vector. Why? Because there is what else? No. So there is separate quantity called the tensor. একটা quantity আমরা নাম দিলাম scalar quantity. Second quantity is vector quantity. And third quantity is the tensor. So tensor are those quantities which have both magnitude and direction. Magnitude and direction, but does not follow vector. Does not follow vector. এটা ভেক্টর ল ফলো করে না, বাট ভেক্টরস উইল ফলো দ্য ভেক্টর ল। The tensor quantity মানে কি, তাদের ডিরেকশন থাকবে কি, they have certain kind of direction sense. So whenever the physical quantity has a direction, it may not be a vector. It may be a tensor quantity also. So must not be a vector. যে ভেক্টর হতেই হবে এটা বলা যাবে না। So may be a vector or may not be a vector. হতেও পারে, নাও হতে। Why? Because tensor are separate quantity like current. The current is a separate quantity. যেমন করে এখানে বলা যে স্কেলার ফিজিক্যাল কোয়ান্টিটি উইথ ডিরেকশন। সাম ফিজিক্যাল কোয়ান্টিটিজ আর দেয়ার, those are treated as scalar, must have some kind of direction. Basically, these quantities are tensor quantity. এইগুলিকে আমরা টেনসর নাম, লাইক কারেন্ট। ইলেকট্রিক কারেন্টের কথা যখন বলছি, লেটার সে ধর বললাম যে একটা তার রয়েছে, এটা বললাম 2 অ্যাম্পিয়ার কারেন্ট, 2 অ্যাম্পিয়ার কারেন্ট আছে। So there is another wire through which, let us say, 3 ampere current is being flowing. So from this point we draw another wire. So through this wire তাহলে যাবে কত, এই আইটা হবে 5 ampere. Okay. So now if I change the direction of 3 ampere, let us say ধর বললাম 3 ampere এইদিকে না দিলাম, এইদিকে করবি 3 ampere. So now the 3 ampere is coming out from this point. So now this through this wire I should be equal to 1 ampere. So depending on the direction of this 3 ampere, the I on the second wire is changed. The current has certain direction, along with the current will flow. So current can counter, current will always along a flow along a particular wire. এই যখন ওয়্যারটা দেখেছি, along that wire the current should, it cannot flow any other part, to any other direction. তাহলে quantities which have certain kind of direction, those are called the tensor quantity, but they are not the vector quantity. Why? এই যদি ভেক্টর হতো, they should follow the vector law. They are not following the vector. They not follow vector law. Not follow vector law. So এই কারণে এই কোয়ান্টিটি সেপারেটলি বলা হয় যে those are called the টেন্সর কোয়ান্টিটি। কিন্তু এখন টেন্সর শব্দটা বলবো না আমরা, we only say these are the scalar quantity, like time. হ্যাঁ, time can also have direction. Time is always moving in the forward direction. It can never move backward direction. But it has a direction sense. So light, time, electric current, these are the quantities which are basically called to a scalar quantity. But they have some kind of direction sense. Hmm. Now we go for a vector. Now, how to represent a vector? Vector has to be represented by an arrow. So once I draw an arrow, starting from, let us say, this is the arrow head, and this is the tail of the arrow, and this is the head. So যখনই আমরা এরকম একটা অ্যারোকে ডিক্লেয়ার করলাম, the length of the arrow will declare, let us say, 2 centimeter length is the length of the arrow. So 2 centimeter, nothing but the magnitude of this. So let us say this vector is signified by a vector. এরকম করে লেখা হয়েছে a bar. So this is the notation of the vector. আমি যদি বলি যে a bar is a vector which is measuring a particular vector called, let us say, force. আমি কি বললাম যে vector has magnitude. So magnitude is what? The length of the arrow. এখানে magnitude বোঝানো কম করে the length of the arrow. আমি বলবো যে let us say that 2 centimeter of the arrow length measures a force of, let us say, 10 Newton. Okay. So that means 1 centimeter measures how much? 1 centimeter measure করবে 5 Newton. So this 1 centimeter equals to 5 Newton. This is known as the scale of the vector. This is called the scale of vector. So in order to measure a vector, you have to give a scale. So scale is how much? Scale is 1 centimeter is equivalent to 5. Direction is from tail to head. Arrow টা যেদিকে আছে সেই দিকে direction থাকবে। And in order to measure the direction, I have to specify this angle also. Let us say this angle, we measure this angle from the positive x-axis in the anti-clockwise direction. If I measure the angle from positive x-axis in the anti-clockwise direction, then the angle is said to be positive. Let us say we go 30 degree. So now we can represent the vector in this manner. A vector is written as capital A vector mod into NA cap. This is the notation of the vector. So whenever I write a vector, I should represent this number as the magnitude of the vector, mod of a vector, and NA cap is called the direction of the vector. This is the way how we represent the vector. So instead of measuring the NA cap, আমি এখন বললাম কি I am measuring the 30 degree angle. 30 degree angle. So what is that 30 degree angle? 30 degree angle shows the direction of the vector. And A vector কে লিখবো কেমন করে? A vector can represented as, let us say, 10 Newton is the magnitude. So 10 bracket 30. So this is another way of writing the vector. Okay. So if I measure 10 within bracket 30 degree, that means I am measuring the vector as well as the direction. Mod is 30 Newton and angle is 30 degree. So 10 Newton and 30 degree. So 30 has to be measured from the anti-clockwise direction from the positive x-axis. Now, without changing the vector, I can translate it. Translation of vector means either I can move the vector in the positive x-axis or negative x-axis. Keeping in mind that any time this angle given same, ধর বললাম এই angle alpha রয়েছে, so in this situation this angle is also alpha and this angle is also alpha. If I move the vector either in positive x or in negative x, তাহলে আমি বলবো this is called the translation. So in translation, the vector is not going to be changed. Whenever I translate the vector, similarly if I say this is the A vector, this is also given as the A vector, this is also given as the A vector, provided mod is same, that the length of the arrow is same. So similar to the x-axis translation, I can move the vector on the y-axis. Either I can move the positive y-axis keeping the same angle alpha, or I can move in the negative x-axis with the same angle alpha. Okay. That means translation of the vector can be done either in x-axis or in y, or in combination of both x and y. Let us say I am moving by some distance toward x, some distance towards x, then I am moving some distance towards y. Okay. That means this is the vector that I am getting. So this is also the same vector. So translation means I am either moving towards x-axis or moving towards y-axis or combination of both x-axis. So whenever I am doing the translation, there is no change in the vector. Vector remains same. Keeping in mind that every time while you are doing the translation, the mod has to be same. Then only all the vectors remain same. This is called the translation of a vector. So if a vector A is rotated about system, now if I do the rotation, let us say this is the vector, I draw a vector like this way. Now this rotation of the vector keeping about the state. That means I rotate in this direction. So if I rotate the vector, then certainly the angle will change. Initially, let us say this is the angle alpha, this angle alpha. Now once I rotate the vector, now let us say the vector comes to this state. Here we can do. Okay. Now the angle, new angle beta. Okay. So since alpha is not equals to beta, that means what we can say at the new position the vector is also changed. What is that vector? Let us say angle B vector. Okay. So A vector keeping the same mod হতে পারে ধর বললাম 10 নিউটন রয়েছে এটাও 10 নিউটন মডটা লিখেছি ওকে বাট A vector is what? A vector কে লিখব 10 angle alpha আর B vector কে লিখব কেমন করে 10 angle beta. So that means these two vectors are not same. A vector is not equal to B vector. So while rotating a vector, if I rotate a vector about system, the quantity which does not change. Only thing is that mod will not change. Mod remains same. Okay. Magnitude of the vector will not change. So if I rotate this vector about a tail, that means I am performing a circular motion like this. So once I rotate the vector in a circle, so every time the radius of the circle is going to be fixed. The circle radius is not going to be changed. The circle radius will be changed. That is what we can ensure that the mod magnitude of the particular vector is constant. So this is called rotational vector. Another concept is the translation of vector. Now we go for the multiplication. So initially what you do, multiplication of vector by a scale. Let us say this scalar called is k. So k can be 2, k can be half any number. K can be plus, minus 2, anything. Okay. K can be positive number, k can be negative number, any number, fraction number may be there. So once I multiply a vector, let us say I multiply a vector with some constant k is another one. So what we got another vector b. Okay, these two vector A and B are not same. B is different. But because let us say ধর বললাম যে A ভেক্টরকে আমি লিখেছিলাম 10, 30 এইভাবে লিখেছিলাম it is representing 10 Newton more and angle 30 degree. Now if I multiply, let us say K is 2. So B vector is how much? B vector is 2 into 10 angle 30. That means it becomes 20 angle 30. That means there is another new more. So magnitude of the B vector is going to be changed. So whenever we multiply a scalar by a vector, I am getting another vector. Let us say A length ধর বলেছিলাম আমি 1 cm, 2 cm. Once I multiply with a k number, so the mod is increased and the length of the vector is increased. Only change is that there is no change in the direction. Why? Because if I multiply it, so I am getting let us say new vector is the B vector. For both the vector, this angle remains alpha. Okay. Both the vectors remains same angle alpha. That means what we can consider that both the vectors are aligned over each other. That means once you multiply by k, so B vector and A vector are parallel to each other. B vector is parallel to A vector because there is no change in the direction. So multiplication of vector by a scalar gives a vector product. Output is vector. But this vector is different from the other vector. So B is not equal to A. But what you can conclude that B is parallel. Okay, so whenever we multiply a vector by a scalar, the new vector is parallel to the A vector. Yeah. If vector A is there, now negative y vector. Now what is negative y vector? Negative y vector means multiplication by the scalar quantity minus. Okay, or বললাম একটা vector A রয়েছে that is equal to 10, 30. If I multiply it by minus 1, so that means another vector B vector should be equal to minus 1 into 10, 30. So that means minus 10, 30. But logic is that this mod number can never be negative. Mod number can never be negative. So since I am saying mod, so mod can never be negative. So this way you cannot replace. So whenever I am saying multiplication of vector by a minus 1, then I am getting the negative of vector, and negative of vector means rotation of a vector by 1. This is nothing but the rotation by 180. So once I rotate the vector by 180, I am getting the negative vector. So initially the A vector is this, which is angle 30 degree. So once I multiply by minus 1, so A vector should be directed in the opposite direction. Why? Because now the A vector should rotate by 180 degree. 180 degree rotation. So that means This is the mean vector A minus A vector, where the entire vector is rotated by an angle 180. So whenever we want to draw the negative y vector, so negative y vector nothing but the rotation of the vector by 1. Okay. Let us say this is the A vector. So negative A vector should be in this direction minus A vector. If I say no. One to scalar quantity. With that scalar quantity you have to multiply. যখন নেগেটিভ বলছি দ্যাট মিনস ইউ হ্যাভ টু মাল্টিপ্লাই বাই মাইনাস। ওকে, কিন্তু minus 1 দিয়ে যদি মাল্টিপ্লাই করি দ্যাট নাম্বার বিকামস 10 বিকাম minus 10. So mod of any number, magnitude of a vector can never be negative. It is always a positive quantity. So that means you have to rotate the vector. So if there is a vector, বললাম আমি এই দিকে রয়েছে, if I want to calculate the negative of a vector, so this vector has to be rotated in the opposite direction. So this gives the minus. This gives the minus. So once I multiply this vector by a minus 1, that means every time you have to rotate the vector by 1. That is the concept. So now we want to calculate what is the angle between the two. Angle between the two vectors. Now for that, so what you will do, you have to put the vectors tail to tail by translation. Let us say initially this is the A vector. So for A vector this is the tail, and for the B vector this is the tail. So you have to translate the either B vector or A vector in such a way so that they are moving or they are coming another common tail. If I translate the B vector, so B vector can be translated in this direction. Okay, so that is now the tail of the B vector coincides with the tail of the A vector. Now I can measure the angle between them by this side, small. Okay, measure the smaller of the angle between the lines, that will be the angle theta. Now if that angle is 120 degree, so this theta is 60 degree. Okay, so every time you have to measure the angle between the two vectors, you have to adjust the two vectors in such a way so that they are meeting with the common tail. When they are meeting with the common tail, then only I can say that these two vectors are aligned with each other, and now I can measure the angle between them. And only thing is that you have to measure the smaller of the square. If I say this is the vector A, vector B, I can also measure this angle between them, but that is a larger angle. Okay, you have to measure the angle between the vectors every time you have to count for the smaller value of the angle. Here they can 60 degree, so that's 60 of it, not the larger one. So let us say these are vectors. So A is what there. So for this A, this is the tail. For B, this is the So there are two vectors A and B. You are asked to calculate the angle between the two vectors A and B. So you have to measure the angle between the two vectors. You have to put the two vectors tail to tail. So one vector A has tail over here, another B vector has tail over there. So if I slide the B vector, that means translate the B vector and matches with the A vector tail, so B vector will look like this. This is the location of the B vector now. So only thing is that you have to calculate this angle. Let us say this is the theta angle. So B vector is making an angle 120 with the x-axis. So this angle is 120 degree. So from this geometry it is clear that theta should be equal to 120 minus 30. Okay, 90 degree. 120 minus 30. 120 minus 30 is 90 degree. That means A vector and B vector in between them angle become 90 degree. That means in other word I can say that A vector is perpendicular to B vector. Okay, when theta is equals to 90 degree. If I got the result as theta equals to 0 degree, so I say that A is parallel to B vector. This is symbol for parallel when theta becomes 0 degree. If I say A vector is anti-parallel to B vector, anti-parallel symbol is write the parallel line and then cut it. So that means theta equals to 1. So these are the basic definition of parallel vector, perpendicular vector and anti-parallel. Whenever the angle is 90 degree, then it is perpendicular. Angle between the two vectors is 0 degree, then it is parallel. And whenever the angle between them is 180 degree, then these two called are anti-parallel. Okay. Now let us say in the adjoining vector diagram, what is the angle between A and B you are asked. Now in order to calculate the angle between A and B, let us say this, I have calculated this angle alpha. What is the alpha? So for calculating the alpha, this is the right angle triangle. It is given that C number is equals to By. When the numbers are written without any mod, without any vectors involved, so no bar is there. No bar symbols is there. So if the no bar symbol are there, that means these equations are basically scalar equation. Okay. So this is how you have to distinguish between the scalar equation and the vector equation between the question. So if I write simply c equals to b by 2, that means no bar is put over the number. That means these numbers represented the scalar. So c, this number is equal to basically b by 2. B is the hypotenuse value. So from the definition of sine of alpha, can I say sine of alpha equals to b by 2 divided by b number? That means equals to half. That means alpha becomes 30 degree. But this is not the answer. Why? Because we are asked to calculate the angle between the b vector and a vector. That means the tail of both b and a should coincide. But the tail of a is over there. So once you translate the a, so a will be in this direction. So that the tail of a will come over here. So now this angle becomes the theta. That is the angle between the two vectors. So theta becomes 180 minus alpha. So theta should be 180 minus alpha. That is 150 degree. So 150 degree is your answer. That is the angle between the a vector and b. Got it? So whenever in the question some values are given and those values are given without any bar symbol, that means understand that those numbers are written as the scalar. And if these numbers are written with the vector equations, that means putting bar together, then these are the vectors. These are the vectors. Now we go for the addition of the vector. So we call the triangle law. A triangle law is such that it is used to calculate the addition of a vector and b vector. So whenever I want to add a result, a and b are to be added together. That means I want to get a new vector. Let us say the r vector. So r vector should be equal to a vector plus b. So this is a vector equation. R vector equals to a vector plus b vector. It is called vector equation. And whenever I write a vector equation, the number of unknowns will be how much? Will be here in this equation 6. Right? Because for each of the three vectors, there are three vectors are there. For each of the three vectors, two unknowns are there. One is the magnitude, another direction. So for vectors, a number of unknown is 2 times the number of vectors. Since here the three vectors are there, out of three vectors, all the vectors are having some kind of magnitude and direction. So total number of unknown is 6. So in order to get the value of this vector equation, solution of this vector equation, you must know at least 4 out of the 6 quantities, you must know the 4 quantities. At least 4 quantities should be known. What are those 4 quantities? The magnitude and direction of b vector, magnitude and direction of a vector. So that means the complete details of a and b should be known to you. Then only you can calculate the r. Got it? So now what is our intention? To calculate the magnitude of r vector as well as the direction of the r vector. So for that first law, we are following the triangle. What is that law? You have to arrange the vector in such a way so that they will arrange at head-tail combination. We call the head-tail combination. So head of A is touching the tail of B. Head of A is touching the tail of B. Once I align the two vectors in such a way so that they are with head-tail combination, then only if I draw the line joining between the initial tail. So this is the initial tail and this is the final head. So line joining between initial tail to final head will give the resultant. Okay, this is the R vector. So that is the idea of the triangle rule. That means you have to construct a triangle like this. So in order to construct a triangle, you have to join the vectors in such a way so that they are aligned with head-tail arrangement. Once they are aligned with head-tail arrangement, starting with the initial tail to the final head, if I draw a line, that line will represent the direction of the resultant. Now for this, what you have to calculate? The mode of this vector, magnitude, as well as this angle alpha. Okay. So these are the two parameters that I want to calculate. So what is the alpha number and what is the mode of the term number? Now for that, what you do basically, if I draw this diagram, this is the A vector and then you draw the B vector. So if the head-tail arrangement is starting over here, so if I translate the A vector in this direction, so can I say this is a theta angle is there, which is between the A vector and B vector, right? Because if I translate the A vector will be in this direction. So now the A and B are arranged in common tail. So that means this is the theta angle between the A vector and B vector. Okay. So now I am writing in this way so that the length of the A vector, the mod of A vector is this much. So there is the mod of A vector. Now this length is how much? This length is, if I draw the triangle, let us say with the triangle P, Q, R and S. Okay. So this is the PQRS triangle. So from Q I am drawing a perpendicular line. So on the extended portion of the A vector. So for the QRS triangle, can I say that for the triangle QRS, I can get the value of cos theta as equals to base by hypotenuse. Now what is base? Base is basically RS number. Here by hypotenuse. Now what is the hypotenuse? This is RQ. What is RQ? That is mod of B vector. Similarly, I can draw the value of sin theta. What is sin theta? Perpendicular by hypotenuse. What is perpendicular? That is Q base. If the hypotenuse, that is mod of V vector. So that means from this triangle, we can get the value of RS equals to mod of B cos theta and Q base equals to mod of B sin theta. So these two are known. Okay. Once I know these two, now I can go for the entire triangle, that is PQS. So PQS is the right angle triangle. Or PQS is the right angle triangle at S position. So can I say PQ square equals to PS square plus QS square? Okay. So PQ is the hypotenuse. We use the Pythagoras theorem. So that is PS square, this number PS square plus QS square. Now what is PS? PS is PR plus RS. PS is PR plus RS. Now what is PR? PR is basically A vector mod. And what is RS? RS can be obtained from B cos theta number. So I write A vector mod plus V vector cos theta, that is the value of PS. So entire thing square. Plus QS is what? QS is simply this vertical number, that is B sin theta or mod of B vector sin theta. Okay. And whole square. So this number and this number, if I square and add, so cos theta, sin theta, this will be added up to give 1, and only you are left with 2ab cos theta. So once I simplify this, I can get these answers. A square plus b square plus 2ab cos theta, that is equal to mod of. So that gives the resultant magnitude. And another quantity that I want to calculate, what is the angle alpha? So alpha is what? Alpha is the angle, is the alpha angle. Alpha is the angle made by the R vector with A vector. A is the vector from where I am measuring the angle alpha. Okay. So that means if I draw the triangle PQS, in that PQS triangle, can I write tan alpha value? So tan alpha should be how much? QS divided by PR plus RS. PR plus RS. Now all the values are known. QS is known, PR is known, RS is known. If I put this, you can get the value tan alpha. So B sin theta divided by A plus B cos. Whenever I am writing simply B, that means it is the mod of B. Mod of B. Okay. So either you can write B vector mod, this is okay, or you can simply write B. So whenever I am writing without part symbol, that means automatically I am mentioning the magnitude part of the vector. Okay. So these are the two formulas that we are going to use now to calculate the resultant of the two vector and the angle between the resultant as well as A vector. Okay. So that's tan alpha. So based on this, so only thing is that what you should know, the mod of A vector, that means A should be known to you, mod of B, that is B should be known to you, and the angle between the theta should be known to you. So once you know A, B and theta, then only you can calculate the R mod and as well as the alpha angle. Okay. Yes, good. The resultant of two vectors of magnitude 3 and 4 is root of 36. Okay, so angle between the two vectors. So I know that R square equals to A square plus B square plus 2ab cos. Okay, now what is R square? R square is 37. What is A square? 3 square plus B square is 4 square plus 2 into 3 into 4 into cos theta. So this is 25 plus 12 into 2 means 24 cos theta. So cos theta becomes how much? 37 minus 25 divided by 24. Okay. So 12 by 24 means half. That means theta becomes 60. So 60 is the angle between the two vectors, whose magnitude, resultant magnitude is 37, root of 37, and the each of the vector, that means A vector mod is 3. Q is what? C is the basically the mod of A vector. You nothing but the mod of A vector given. And 4 is another vector whose mod is 4. This is the mod of B vector. Okay. So these two values are given. You are asked to calculate the angle between the two vectors, that means theta. Want to calculate the theta? So straightforward, use the formula. Once I use the formula, I am getting the value of theta is as 60 degrees. Let us say I am writing this type of equation. So this is the vector equation. This is a scalar number. This is another scalar number. So R equals to A plus B such as the resultant equals to A vector plus B. And mod of R is given 5, A is 3, B is 4. Angle. Okay. So if I use the same formula, that is R square equals A square plus B square plus 2AB cos. Okay. Now R square is how much? R square is 25. A square is how much? 9. B square is 16. Plus 2 times of 3 into 4 into cos theta. Okay. So this is 25. So cancels out. So that means cos theta becomes how much? Cos theta becomes 0. Okay. Now cos theta is 0. Cos theta is 0 either at 90 degree. Cos theta will be 0 at 90 degree value. At 90 degree cos theta equals to 0 or at minus 90. Okay. If I rotate in anti-clockwise, so this is plus 90, this is the minus 90. So minus 90 can be said to be as another angle as 270 degree. Okay, 270 degree. So the angle between the two vectors is 270 degree according to the options given. Either I can write plus 90 or 270 degree. Minus 90 as 270 degree. So answer for this is 270 degree because we are getting the cos theta to be 0. When the cos theta becomes 0, that means the angle between the two vectors is 90 degree or minus 90 degree. That means what you can conclude that in this equation, the A vector is perpendicular to B. That means whenever the two vectors are perpendicular to each other, that means you know that theta becomes how much? Theta becomes 90 degree. Here also I am getting the same. Either theta 90 degree. So 90 degree means let us see A vector, B vector. So this is plus 9. If I draw the vectors in this way, let us say I am taking A vector in this direction, B vector downward. So now this angle is minus 90 degree. Then also these two vectors are perpendicular. Okay. So either theta equals to plus 90 or theta equals to minus 90, both the vectors are perpendicular to each other. That means the angle between the two vectors is 90. Okay. Moving to the next problem. Now, this equation is the vector equation. This is the vector equation. And there is another equation given, that is a scalar equation. This is a scalar equation. Okay, so from the question you have to understand which one is the which one equation. So no bar means scalar equations, with bar means the vector equation. Now we are asked to calculate the angle between the A vector and B vector. Okay. So in this situation, what happened? If I use the formula, so R P square, P is the resultant, so P square should be equals to A square plus B square plus 2AB cos theta. That is the expression. But another equation is given that P equals to A plus B. If I square that number, if I square the scalar equation, so if I square it, so I am getting P square equals to A square plus B square plus 2AB. Okay, if I subtract, so it becomes 0, 0. So finally what I am getting, that is equals to plus 2AB into cos theta minus 1 equals to 0. Okay, so ultimately what I am getting, that cos theta minus 1 is equals to 0, or I can say cos theta becomes 1. Okay, so there are two positions where the cos theta becomes 1. So either I can take cos theta is 1 equals to 0 degree. So 0 is the one answer. Okay, so this is 0 answer. Another situation is that if I go for another angle of 2 pi, so our after 2 pi angle is also 0 degree. 0 means plus 1. So 0, 2 pi, 4 pi, these are the values where the cos becomes plus 1. So only options available to us is 0 degree. So we also know that when the two vectors are at an angle of 0 degree with each other, that means in this situation, the vectors are parallel to each other. That is what we can say, that A vector is parallel to each other. Why? Because theta is 0 degree. Okay. Angle between the vector will suggest that the theta is 0 degree. So theta 0 degree means parallel vector. And for parallel vectors, it becomes 2ab. Why? Cos theta, cos 0 degree is equals to 1. So answer is plus 2ab only. So that means R is A plus, and that R is the maximum value of R that I can get out of the addition of the two. If I give two vectors, A vector and B vector, I want to calculate what is the maximum value of the resultant. That means when the two vectors are aligned parallel to each other, then only in that situation I am getting the R2 maximum. This is the maximum value possible that you are getting. Okay. Similarly, if vectors are anti-parallel, theta is 180, that is anti-parallel vector. Okay. So that means cos of 180 is what? Cos of theta becomes minus 1. Now once cos theta becomes minus 1, so R becomes how much? R becomes under root of A square plus B square minus 2AB. That means it is equals to A minus B whole square root. Or I can say B minus A whole square root. I don't know which one is better. Okay. So R should be equals to A minus B or B minus A depending on which one is greater. Or I can write simply mod of A minus absolute value. Okay. So this is called the minimum value of R that I get. This is the minimum. So whenever the two vectors are aligned in anti-parallel situation, so then minimum number of resultant that is possible is A minus. Okay. And when they are aligned parallel to each other, that means I am getting the R as maximum. So that defines the range of the R. Okay. So if I say P vector is A minus B, so P vector is A minus B vector and P equals to A plus B, the angle will be. So P equals to A vector minus B vector. What is that symbol? That means, let us say this is the A vector and I am getting the B vector as this one. So for this is the angle theta. Okay. And if I say minus B vector, so for that situation, minus B vector is this vector. Now, whenever the vector is minus B vector, that means now I am adding A vector and minus B vector. So this angle should be taken care of. What is that angle? That is 180 minus theta. Okay. The angle between the two vectors is now 180 minus theta. And for that situation, what I can write that P vector mod should be equal to how much? That is equal to P should be equal to under root A square plus B square plus 2AB into cos of 180 minus theta. And cos of 180 minus theta is minus cos. Cos of 180 minus theta, I am writing over here that cos of 180 minus theta is equals to minus cos theta. Okay, so once I put this, so what I am getting that number is equals to A square plus B square minus 2AB cos. Okay, with the root of B. If I square both sides, so I am getting P square equals to A square plus B square minus 2AB cos theta. Okay. So this is the final equation. Now another equation is given that P equals to A plus B. Now square that equation both sides also. So that gives P square equals to A square plus B square plus 2AB. Okay. Now again subtract it. So minus. So P square A square which are all cancel. So ultimately minus 2AB take common. So 1 plus cos theta becomes 0 degree. 0. So it means cos theta becomes minus. So where the cos theta becomes minus 1, that means here at 0 degree cos theta is plus 1 and at 180 degree angle cos theta becomes minus 1. That means this angle is 180. Okay. So when the two vectors are anti-parallel to each other, theta is 180 means anti-parallel. Then what is your answer? Answer is theta is 180. That means angle between two vectors is 180. Then these two vectors are anti-parallel to each other. Okay. So resultant, whenever they are making angle A and B, so let us say this is the A vector and this is the B vector. So the resultant of the A vector and B vector between them is the angle theta is a variable of theta. Okay. R depends on theta. R equals to A square plus B square plus 2AB cos theta. R depends on theta. Now the maximum value of theta and minimum value of theta gives the value of R max and R min. So that number is the maximum R max. This number is the R min. Okay. So whenever the two vectors are given, I can predict between the two numbers, out of which between this particular range, the R should lie. So if I say that two vectors are there whose magnitude is 2 and 3 units, They have to be added. So maximum possible value should be 2 plus 3. No, 2 plus 3, that is 5. And minimum should be equal to 3 minus 2. I cannot say minus 1. So 2 minus 3 cannot be. So only thing is that I have to use the absolute sign. Not symbol has to be used for the minimum. So resultant magnitude can never be negative. Magnitude is always a positive number. So I have to write 3 minus 2, that is 1. So the with the vectors of magnitude 2 and 3, the R max number is 5. This is the maximum value of the resultant, and this is the minimum value of the resultant. Okay. So between these two numbers, the R will lie. Either it can be maximum. So maximum is for theta 0 degree, minimum for theta 1 degree, or for any value of theta between 0 to 180, the R should lie between 1 and 2 for this particular situation. Okay. Now there are two forces, 4 dyne and 3 dyne, act upon a body. The resultant force on the body can only be so more than 3 dyne, more than 4, between 3 and 4, between 1 and 7. So between 1 and 7 is possible answer. Why? 1 is the R mean. R mean. Why? Because 4 minus 3. And 7 is the R max. Why? 4 plus 3. So between these two numbers, the resultant should lie. That is either between 1 and 7, inclusive of 1 and 7. So R should be, R is between 7 to 1. This number. Lower value is 1, maximum value is 7. So this is called the range of R. This is called the range of resultant, range of R. So most of the time you are asked to calculate the range of R. So for that you have to use this concept. Okay. Now, here it is the unit vector. Now what is the unit vector? Unit vector is nothing but the vector having magnitude of unit. That means these vectors, A vector, B vector, if I write the mod of A vector, that is basically if I write small a, that is equals to 1, and that is equals to same for the B vector. So if the vector having the magnitude of 1 unit, then for the unit. Now these are the two unit vector. R vector is given as A plus B vector, and mod of R equals to R. Okay, mod of R equals to R. That means now we have to calculate the range of R. So if the two vectors have equal magnitude 1 and 1, so what is the R max number? R max, simply you add these two. 1 plus 1, that is 2. And what is the R mean? R mean should be subtracted to these two. 1 minus 1, that is 0. So range of the R should lie in between 0 and 2. Okay, range of the R will lie in between 0 and 2. So minimum possible value is 0, maximum is 2. Any value between 0 and 2 are possible. That is the range of R. There is a force of 120 Newton and a force of 20 Newton acting simultaneously at a point may produce a resultant force. 120 and 20 are the two different forces. So produce a maximum value of 140 and minimum value of 100. So minimum value 100 means below 100 is not possible, 80 is not possible. 140 is possible. 160 is also not possible. Okay, so only thing is that it can produce 140 Newton when theta becomes 0. Nah, because the range of R is for this situation is R will lie in between 140 to 100. Any value less than 100 is not acceptable. So 80 is less than 100, so it is not acceptable. Any value more than 140 is also not acceptable. So 160 is more than 140, that is also not acceptable. So 80 and 160 will cancel. So automatically we are left with only 140. Okay, that will be your answer. Two forces, one is 5 and is 12. At what angle the two vectors be added so that you can get the result as 17, 7 and 30. So in order to get 17, these two are should be added up. So 17 means theta should be equal to 0 degree. Why? Because R is using as A plus B rule. Okay. Now 7 means you have to subtract it. So 7 means theta should be equal to 180 degree. That means here I am getting R should be equal to A minus B number. 12 minus 5 is 7. And in order to get 13 Newton, you have to check it. So answer is first is 0, then 180. 0, 180 combination is the first only one. So answer is option A. But you have to check whether the angle is 90 degree for the third one or not. So for the third one, you are getting the result of 13 Newton. So 13 square should be equal to 5 square plus 7, 12 square plus 2 times 5 into 12 into cos theta. Okay. So 5 square plus 12 square means 13 square. So 13 square plus 120 cos theta. So ultimately cos theta becomes 0. So cos theta 0 means theta is 90 degree. So that is correct option. Okay. So when the two vectors are arranged perpendicular to each other of magnitude 5 and 12, they are giving the resultant a certain angle. Okay. So one point you have to remember regarding the perpendicular vector is that if the two vectors are perpendicular, every time I am getting the cos theta number is 0. So let us say this is the A vector and this is the B vector. If they are perpendicular to each other, so for that the resultant into this direction is the R number. And what is the R number? That is simply A square plus B. Okay. So that is the hypotenuse of the right angle triangle. Okay. If A and B are both are equal, if A equals to B, then R number should be how much? A root 2. Okay, A root 2. Hypotenuse of the square or the diagonal of the square. Okay. These are the two important conclusions that you should remember regarding the perpendicular vectors. Okay. Now, if I say that two vectors are there whose magnitude are equal, so without bar is written in the scalar equation, I am saying the two equal vectors. That means in the case of two equal vectors. So for two equal vectors, if I write R square number, that is equals to A square plus B square plus 2AB cos theta. This is the equation. Now in that equation, I am using that concept of A and B both are equal. If A and B both are equal, so here I am writing A square, here also I am writing A square plus 2 times A into cos theta. Okay, that means I am getting 2A square plus 2A square cos theta. If I take 2A square common over here, so that gives 2A square into 1 plus cos theta. 1 plus cos theta. Now 1 plus cos theta is how much? You know the multiple angle formula. So cos of 2 theta equals to 2 cos square theta minus 1. Okay. Or I can write cos square theta equals to 1 plus cos of 2 theta by 2. Okay. So I can use this formula. So if I use this formula, so 1 plus cos theta can be written as 2A square into 2 times of cos square theta by 2. That means 4 times A square cos square theta by 2. Okay. That is our R square number. So ultimately what you can say, R should be equal to root of that number. 4 times A square cos square theta by 2. That means that is equal to 2A cos of theta by 2. Okay. So very important result, you have to remember that whenever the two vectors are equal, the resultant can also be written as 2A cos theta by 2. Okay, 2A cos theta by 2. So this is the resultant. And regarding the angle, so let us say this is the A vector and this is the B vector. So both are having the same magnitude. Yeah, B is also equals to A. Angle is theta. If I calculate the resultant alpha, resultant R, so we got the R is equals to 2 times A into cos of theta y. That is our answer. Now I want to calculate what is this angle alpha. So for that I have to use the second formula, that is tan alpha. So what is the tan alpha? Tan alpha equals to B sin theta divided by A plus B cos theta. This is the answer. Okay. Now since A and B both are equal, I can write this A sin theta divided by A plus A cos theta. So A will cancel out. So ultimately we are left with sin theta divided by 1 plus cos theta. And you know that 1 plus cos theta is equal to 2 cos square theta by 2. 1 plus cos theta can be written as 2 cos square theta by 2. And sin theta can be also written as 2 sin theta by 2 into cos of theta by 2, sin 2 theta formula. Okay, so ultimately 2 cancels out, 1 cos will cancels out. So we are left with tan theta by 2. Okay, so I am getting tan alpha equals to tan theta by 2. That means alpha equals to theta by 2. Okay, that is what? That is the angle is basically the bisect. So whenever I am getting two equal vector of equal magnitude, not two equal vectors of two equal magnitude, two vectors of equal magnitude, resultant formula is 2A cos theta by 2. And what is the alpha? Alpha is always passing to the angle bisect. If theta is 120 degree, so alpha should be how much? 60 degree, that is the angle bisector. And what is the value of R? If A is 3. So in that situation, you get the answer as R should be equal to 2A in 3 into cos of 60 degree. Cos of 60 degree. So cos 60 means half. So ultimately 2 into 3 into half. That means I am getting 3. Okay. Now the interesting part is that whenever the magnitude is A, angle is 120, you are getting resultant as also. Okay. That is two vectors of equal magnitude give the same resultant. Same resultant when the angle is 1. That is another important relation. Ah, when the angle is 120 degree between the two vectors, each vector is of equal magnitude and the result is also same. That means, let us say this is one vector. This is A vector. There is another vector A. Both are equal, but the angle is 120 degree. In that situation, what you are getting, the resultant is passing to the 60 degree on. Why? Because the alpha is 60 degree and the R is also equal to A. Okay, all three becomes equal. All three becomes equal, the vectors as well as the resultant. Okay, only when the situation is that the angle between the two vectors is 120. Okay, so resultant of the two forces, each of P acting at an angle theta, is how much? Right now we have obtained the answer is 2P cos theta by 2. Okay, 2P cos theta by 2. That is the answer. Two equal vectors have a resultant equal to either of them. Two equal vectors, resultant either of equal of them. That means now the theta is 120 degree. Okay. So these are the two very basic questions. First one is the formula basically. So two vectors are there, each are having same magnitude. What is the resultant? That is 2p cos theta by 2. And finally, two equal vectors have a resultant equal to either of them when the angle is 120. So these two derivations or the information you have to remember. Right? Now try to do this. So d minus d ক্ষেত্রে in this direction, d এই দিকে দেখানো হচ্ছে, c টাকে এই দিকে দেখানো হচ্ছে, so c is in this direction, so minus c should be in the opposite direction. না? So this is the minus c vector. Can I say this is the blue arrow is the minus c vector? So if you follow the triangle rule, d vector then minus c vector. So d plus minus c should be the a vector, na? D vector minus c vector should be the vector. Why? Because this is the triangle rule. D vector. Then with that I draw the minus c vector. So closing side of the triangle will give the a vector. That is the resultant. Nah, d vector minus c vector equals to a vector. That is the answer. It is also similar to the addition. Only thing is that এখানে একটা মাইনাস আসবে, এইখানে একটা মাইনাস আসবে। ফর্মুলাতে একটা করে মাইনাস এক্সট্রা ছিল। আগে যে ফর্মুলা গুলো প্লাস দিয়েছিল, now we have to write the formula, same formula with the minus. Why? Because the angle between the two vectors, যখন a and b কে add করেছিলাম, then theta. When you subtract this vector, so angle is pi minus or 180 minus theta. So this angle, so cos of 180 minus theta is minus cos theta. So এই কারণে এখানে minus cos theta সব করে চলে আসবে। The sum of two unit vector is a unit vector. So first line says that whenever the sum of two vectors is equals to that particular vector, that means theta between them is 120 degree. You know that magnitude of the difference. So magnitude of difference means now in this situation theta becomes how much? Theta prime equals to 180 minus 120 degree. That is 60 degree. Okay. So you are asked to calculate the sum of two vectors of magnitude 1 and 1. Why 1? Unit vector. Having the angle between them is 60 degree. So R should be how much? R should be equal to 1 square plus 1 square plus 2 into 1 into 1 into cos of 60 degree. So cos 60 means half. So ultimately we got root 3. So that will be your answer. Nah? So sum of two vectors is equals to that vector. That means that is the information which is pointing toward the angle between the two vectors. That you know that theta is 120 degree. Once I get the value of theta is 120 degree, now the difference of the vector means theta prime should be equals to 180 minus 120, that is 60 degree. A 60 degree যখন বসালাম, ultimately answer is root 3. Okay. Now the most important part of the vector is called the resolution. So far we are doing the formulation of the vector using the formula itself. Now we are going to introduce the resolution. What is the resolution? Resolution means expressing a vector as a sum of two vectors, x vector and y. So these are called the component of the vector. These are called component of a vector. Now that component is x component, another component is y. Okay. So A is a vector. Initially, A is there. Now, if I resolve the vector, then one component should be along x direction, this is x vector. Another component is along the y direction, that is the y vector. Okay. Let us say this angle is alpha. Yeah, this angle is alpha. So then, what you can write that x vector that I have said is along x-axis. The mode of that vector, x vector mode, should be how much? That should be equals to a cos alpha, and y vector mode should be equals to a sin. So these are called the basically component of two. So one component is aligned along the x direction, another component is aligned along the y direction. So x vector mode is a cos alpha, y vector mode is a sin. This is called the resolution. So depending on the direction in which the component will lie, I should say that it is a positive or negative. So component of a vector is always less than its magnitude, always greater than, always equals to none of this. So component, whenever I am saying component, so let us say a vector. So component is the component magnitude is always less. So x vector mod is always less than a vector mod. Okay. So always less than x. Always less than magnitude. Similarly, y vector. So let us say the y component. So y component is also less than the a vector mod y, because x and y are the two sides of the right angle triangle. And this is the hypotenuse part. So hypotenuse is the largest part side. Okay. So always hypotenuse will be larger one. That means the x component and the y component are lesser than the actual vector. Actual vector is a vector. Is always lesser. Okay. So now we introduce the multiplication. Now I introduce the multiplication. So far we discuss about the vector writing, how to write the represent the vector. Now we introduce the multiplication. So there are two types of multiplication. One is called the dot product, that is the scalar product, and second one is the vector. Scalar product means I have to write A dot B. Output is scalar. That's why it's called scalar. Cross product means I have to write A cross B. Output is vector. So one vector is dot product, another vector is cross product. One gives the scalar output, another gives the vector output. So whenever I am making the dot product, so output is A dot B is equals to AB cos theta. What is theta? Theta is the angle. AB cos theta. Okay. So cos theta is the angle between the two vectors. Theta is the angle in the two vectors. So if I do this AB cos theta, so that will give the output of this two vectors. So you are making the product of the two vectors, but output is scalar. Output is scalar quantity. So that is the method by which you can calculate the scalar product. Okay. So depending on the theta angle, if theta is less than 90 degree, so I can say that cos theta is positive. Cos theta is positive. That means your dot product result is going to be positive. If theta is 90 degree, then cos theta becomes 0 degree. So cos theta becomes 0. Cos theta becomes 0. That means you are getting the answer of dot product is equals to 0. Similarly, theta is greater than 90 degree, that is obtuse angle. Now cos theta becomes negative, less than 0. So for that situation, since cos theta is negative, so I can say that A dot B value is negative. So that means scalar product either positive or negative or 0. All three possibilities are there. All three possibilities are there. So depending on the angle. Okay. Now, once I am making the product, so I have to only identify the corresponding unit vector along x, y, and z axis. Corresponding unit vector along x, y, and z axis. Now for that, what you should do, I should represent the unit vector along x, y, z axis as ij. Along x axis, along y axis, along z axis, I represent the unit vector as I, j, and k. So here I use I cap, here I use j, and here I am using k. So what are the I, j, k component? I, j, k are nothing but the unit vector along x, y, and z direction. Along x, y, and z direction, unit vector of I, j, and k. Once I am writing this, that means I is nothing but a vector parallel to the x axis. So what is unit vector? So if I write I vector mod, that is equals to mod. Equals to j vector mod, equals to k vector mod. Okay. So since I, j, k are the unit vectors, so mod of those vectors are equals to 1. Okay. So if I do the dot product of I dot I, so there are two vectors which are aligned along the x direction. That means these angles are theta equals to 0 degree, that is parallel. So these two vectors are parallel to each other. Now theta equals to 0 degree. So ultimately output will be equals to 1. Why? Because I should write mod of I into mod of I into cos of 0 degree. So mod of I is 1. Mod of I is 1. Ultimately I am getting 1. So similar product. I dot I equal to similar product. I am getting 1. Similarly j dot j. Similar product 1. K dot k. I am getting 1. If I go for the dissimilar product, then I dot j. Now I is along x, j is along y. Angle become 90 degree. So dissimilar product will give the answer as well. Okay. Similarly, I dot j or j dot k or k dot I, all values will be 0. Okay. So either you can do the dot product of similar vectors, that is I dot I, j dot j. So every time you are getting the answer as well. If you do the dot product of the opposite vectors, dissimilar vectors, I with j or j with k, any vectors, you do the dot product. So for that situation, now the theta becomes 90 degree. And once theta becomes 90 degree, that means I dot j or j dot k, every answer will be 90 degree. Okay. Now with this information, now I can do the dot product of vectors with themselves. It means a vector, now I am doing the dot product of vector a with a. So if I say a dot a, that means same vector. Same vector. That means the angle between them is 0 degree. So a dot a means a into cos 0. The cos 0 is 1. So actually a into a means a square. A dot a can represent a square. Now further I can write a dot a is nothing but a vector square. That can also represent a vector square. Use the notation. A dot a is a vector square. Or I can write a square as mod of a vector square. Okay. So I can simply write a vector square is equals to a vector mod square. Got it? So I can write that a square without mod is equals to a vector square. Or I can write a vector square equals to a vector mod square. Both are same. Okay. So whenever I am doing the multiplication of vector, dot product of vector with vector, in the same vector I am getting the output here a square, that is scalar quantity. This is nothing but the scalar quantity. Next. Now a dot b whole square should be equal to a square dot b square. That is satisfied when which of the following conditions are true. A dot b whole square equals to a square b square. If I write a vector dot b vector whole square is equals to a vector square dot b vector square. Now a vector square is what? A square. B vector square is what? B square. Okay. So product is how much? What is simply a square B square? What is simply a square B square? No. And a dot b is how much? A dot b is equals to ab cos theta whole square. So if I equate these two, so ultimately what we got, that cos theta equals to 1. So cos theta equals to 1 means theta equals to 0 degree. That means these two vectors are parallel to each other. That means a vector is parallel to b vector. Understood? So whenever the two vectors are parallel to each other, that means this relation can be used. So only thing is that this is called the vector algebra. So I am rewriting the vector in different. Whenever the square of vector is given, so that can be represented by simply a square. So I am removing the bar. Why? Because a vector square is nothing but equals to, this is the important relation, a vector square equals to simply a square. Okay, that can be written. So I am using that fact. So I am removing the bar, that means I am removing the vector concept to the scalar number, a square. Similarly, b vector square is written as the b square. Okay. So now I can equate these two. Ultimately got the cos theta equals to 1 means theta means a vector is parallel to b vector. Okay. So if any vector is written in this form of I, J and K notation, any vector, a vector is written as a1, I component, a2, j, a3, j, a3, k. What does this mean? This means that A vector has three different components. One is along X, another is along Y, another along Z. Why? Because A1 is associated with I. So I is nothing but the X component. J is the Y component, K is the Z component. So these are the three components of the vector A. Similarly, three components of the vector B. So once I want to dot product of A and B, simply write the multiplication X and X component. A1, B1 is what? A1, B1 is the product of these two components. Similarly, A2, B2 is the product of J component, J part. And finally, the A3, B3 is the third part. Okay. So whenever you are doing the dot product, every time, so you have to write the only the component part. Okay, with proper sign. Let us say A vector is given as, let us say, minus 2i plus 3j minus 4. This is the A vector. And B vector is, let us say, I minus j plus 2k. Okay. If you want A dot B, A vector dot B vector, simply take the x component as minus 2 multiplied by 1. Then plus 3 multiplied by minus 1. Then plus minus 4 into plus 2. Okay. So I am taking only the x component together, only y component together, only z component together. The answer is minus 2, minus 3, minus 3. So answer is minus 13. Okay. So that is the answer. A dot B means minus 13. And since we are getting A dot B as the negative number, A dot B is negative number, now we can conclude that the whatever the angle between the A vector and B vector, that theta is obtuse angle. Okay. Because we know that the result of the dot product may be either positive, may be either negative or 0. So depending on that, I can also conclude, since I am getting the answer as minus 13. So minus 13 means now the angle between the two vectors, that is greater than 90 degrees, that is obtuse angle. I can conclude that also. Okay. Now, there is a vector 4i minus 3. You are asked to calculate the perpendicular of this vector, 4i minus 3. So options are there. If I say A vector is perpendicular to B vector, that means we know the theta is how much? 90 degrees. So can I write A vector dot B vector equals to what? AB cos 90 degrees. Now cos 90 is 0. So ultimately you are getting 0. So once you are willing to check whether the two vectors are perpendicular or not, you have to go through the dot product. Once I make a dot product of A and B, your answer if it is 0, that means these two vectors are perpendicular to each other. Now the one vector, let us say is the A vector, and these are the different options for the B vector. You have to check whether you are getting the dot product 0 or not. If you take this is the B vector, option A. So if I do the A dot B, then 4 into 4 means 16 plus 3 into minus 3 means 9, which is not equals to 0. Option B, 7 K. So I and K becomes 0. J and K also becomes 0. Option 0. Okay. Why? Because for the option number B, there is no I component. Because only thing is that I can make the dot product with I with I, J with J, K with K. Now here, for the A vector, can I write that is equals to 4I minus 3J, and since there is no component of K, so I can write 0K. You can multiply 0 with 7, so answer is 0. Okay. So option B is the correct one. Why? Because B is giving the answer to 0. So you can check it by this way. So you have to make the dot product, and once you are getting your answer, that means if the answer is 0, that means we have ensured that you are getting the perpendicular values. Okay. So this is the first application of the dot product, that angle between the two vectors. What is the angle? Angle basically cos theta. Cos theta can be written as A dot B by A. Once you do the dot product, divide by AB. You know what is AB? AB is the product of the mode of A vector and B. Okay. Now let us say if A vector is given as 2i minus 3j plus 2k. This is the A vector representation. So mode of A vector is what? Mode of A vector can be written as under root of all the component make it square. 2 square plus 3 square plus 2 square. It is 4 plus 4 is 8 plus 9 is 17. Root of 17. Okay. So whenever the vectors are written in component form, so take square of all the number and take a root of that also. So that will be the mode of A vector. Similarly, you can calculate the mode of B vector. Okay. So A vector is given as this number, B vector is given as this number. They are said to be perpendicular. I will ask to calculate the value of A. Now here the component is A. So since A vector is perpendicular to B vector, can I say that A vector dot B vector should be equal to 0? Once I do the dot product, so I will be multiplied with I. So first term will be 10, then 2 will be multiplied with 7, so 14. Then third time is A will be multiplied with 3, but both are minus sign, so plus 3. That's equal to 0. Okay. 3 multiplied with A with the minus sign both. So minus 3 into minus 7 means plus 3. So 3A becomes how much? Minus 24. A becomes minus A. Okay. So for A equals to minus A, these two vectors are perpendicular to it. Okay. Similarly, this is one vector is perpendicular to another vector, alpha. Okay, so you are asked to calculate the alpha number. Again, you do. সব তোমাদের ইস্যু বাবা, তোমরা এমন নেটওয়ার্কের মধ্যে বসে আছো যেখানে কিছু। সো টু ভেক্টরস again perpendicular to each other. Perpendicular to each other. The perpendicular means dot product is always 0. So if I say A vector dot B vector is 0, then you put the A vector means 2 should be multiplied with 4. 8. 3 is multiplied by minus 4. So minus 12. And 8 is multiplied with plus alpha. 8 alpha. Equals to 0. 8 alpha equals to pelam koto? 4 pelam. Alpha is half. Okay. So for alpha to be equals to half, these two vectors are perpendicular to each other. So these are the basically the product of two vectors. Now the question is that A vector is given in the form I A cos theta plus J A sin. Another vector B which is perpendicular to A. Another vector B which is perpendicular to A can be expressed as. Okay. Again, you have to take the dot product of possible combinations and take the which one is giving your answer as 0 or not. Okay. If I take this option as the first option, so for that I have to multiply I component with I component. If I multiply the I component with I component, then I am getting what? A into B. Cos theta into cos theta is cos square theta. AB cos square. So for option A, first part is the AB cos square theta. And second component is minus AB sin square theta. AB sin square theta. So this is not equal to 0. Okay. Now come to the option B. So for option B, B should be multiplied with A cos theta. B sin theta and A cos theta means AB sin theta cos theta. AB sin theta cos theta. Next is minus B cos theta. We multiply plus A sin theta. So minus AB sin theta cos theta. Minus AB sin theta cos theta. So that gives 0. Okay. That means this is B option will be our answer. Now check for the option C also. Check for the option C. So for 3, B cos theta is multiplied with A cos theta. So AB cos square theta. And B cos theta is multiplied with A sin theta plus AB sin theta cos theta. That is not equal to 0. And last option D, B cos theta is multiplied with A cos theta. So it means AB cos theta. And B sin theta is multiplied with A sin theta. That is AB sin square theta. So cos square theta plus AB sin square theta. Okay. If I simplify this, that I am getting AB or which is again not equal to 0. Okay. So only I am getting 0 for the option number B. So that means I can say the correct notation for the B vector should be the option number B. So B vector should be represented by B sin theta I minus B cos theta G. That is your answer. Okay. Now, the condition for A plus B vector equation is perpendicular to A minus B. That means we have to make the two. So A vector plus B vector is nothing but another vector C. Okay. And A vector minus B vector is another vector, that is B vector. So simply you are asked to check what is the condition for A C vector and B vector are perpendicular to each other. Now C to be perpendicular, that means C vector is perpendicular to D vector. That means we know that C vector dot D vector should be equal to 0. That is the condition. Now what is C vector? That is A vector plus B vector. Now we are making dot with A vector minus B vector. Okay, that is equals to 0. This is the condition. Now once you are making the dot product, simply you can expand the bracket by simple algebra. So I am starting with A vector. So A vector with A vector, then A vector with B vector. Okay. So first is A vector dot A vector minus A vector dot B. Next start with B. So that means B vector dot A vector minus B vector dot B vector. Okay. Now A vector dot A vector, I know that it is A square minus A dot B is written, and B dot A can also be written as A dot B. A dot B vector, if I multiply A with B, first A then B, that is same as B dot A. That is the commutative. So for this situation, I can write plus A vector dot B vector and then minus B dot B. So it is simply B square, and that number equals to 0. So this will cancel out. So ultimately what I'm getting that A square equals to B square. Okay, that means A equals to B. So A equals to B means mod of both the vectors should be same. Option number A. Mod of A equals to mod of B. Okay. So the condition for A plus B to be perpendicular with A minus B, that is mod of A and mod of B should be same to each other. Must be equal. Okay.